Welcome to Faith Talks Wood podcast. I am Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
We're a podcast that talks about everything from Jesus to joinery and a little bit of everything in between. So, Tom, last week we talked about how we are sick and tired of the political crap, of all the texts, of all the mailers, and I'm happy to say it's over. It was weird, though. It's like the day after the election, it stopped. Get no more mailers, I get no more texts, I got nothing. But just thankful that is over and that there are results from the podcast from the election, and that we can move forward from here, and the country can hopefully be in a better place than we have in the last 4 years. I'll just say that without getting too political. But man, I'll tell you what I did today. So I work in banking, and I was off today because it's Veterans Day. You know, as my father-in-law says, anytime the flag flies, I get the day off. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this day to just get some stuff done. So I did some maintenance on the mower, got kind of winterizing it, getting it ready for the winter, and then had a few mortar places in the brick foundation of the house that I wanted to, you know, get some mortar caulk and just kind of patch that up a little bit. And then had to clean the gutters. I hate cleaning gutters. Now, here's the thing. Our last two houses had gutters put on, and I had them put the leaf guard system on it. This one I didn't. And I think I'm going to put the leaf guard system on in the spring because I'm about sick and tired of cleaning gutters. And my house it's the way it's set up, there's just a lot of gutters. And so, yeah, I'm going to be looking into doing a gutter guard system or a leaf guard system, because the weird thing is all the trees are in the back of our house. There's one kind of on the side, but they're in the back of the house. There's really no trees in front of the house. But all the leaves were in the front of the front half of the house, the front gutters. The rear gutters were clean as anything. I'm like, how does that work? The only thing I can figure is that the wind blows the leaves over the roof and they come down, because there was not a single leaf in the back gutters. I don't get it.
Oh, man, that's funny. Well, that's one blessing. We don't have a tree like super close to our house here. So every time I get up to clean it, there's not a lot in there. But yeah, it's a pain in. But my house back in North Carolina, man, it felt like I had to clean them every month because there was just constant leaves from all the trees around. But man, yeah. But you know, the funny thing is, like you said that about the election, like I was so thankful. I was like, I just want it to be over. I do have a choice in who I want to win, but even if the other person wins, I'm just ready for it to be over so I didn't have to get the mailers and the texts and the phone calls. Dude, I swear, I got like 10 or 12 phone calls and texts wanting me to do a survey, and you could tell they were all from the losing party. They were wanting to try and figure out how they lost. I'm like, is it not obvious? It's like we're all broke, man. It's like inflation. It's like, but yeah, I laughed about it. But yeah, it's so nice not to listen to that crap anymore. I'm so thankful. But yeah, praise God. And I am praying that, you know what, the thing is, so if you're listening to this, I'm assuming that 90% of us probably all voted for the same thing. But we got to remember that it's not time to quit. It's time we were praying for godly men and women to get put into office. I was anyway, from my school board all the way to the state house, the state senate, to, you know, county, mayor, city, you know, all the way to the federal level. But now's the time to pray even more, because now that those people are in there, we need God back in schools, nationwide, period. Yeah, if we put God back in schools and start teaching our kids the right way, man, this nation will look a lot different down the road. So don't quit praying just because it's over. I'm done with the election. That's it. I want you to keep praying, and then
I will say this. I won't get too political. And I'm fairly straightforward and tell people that I voted for Trump, and I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not trying to hide that. I don't like the guy. I think he's a degenerate, but his policies and his economics are really good. And so I'll leave it at that. However, the day after the election, the stock market went up 1,500 points, and I take that.
I'll take that. And I'll say, I mean, I do not like Donald Trump. Let me rephrase that. I did not like Donald Trump because of the way he acted in the last election and going up to it. And I just thought it was obnoxious, and it annoyed the hell out of me. But I voted for him the first time because there was no way in the world I was going to vote for Hillary Clinton. No way. She might as well have horns on her head. She is the devil in a woman's dress. Sorry, that's the way I feel about it. I voted for him the second time because I thought Joe Biden was an idiot. Excuse me for saying that. I apologize. But I think he proved himself to be pretty much that. I don't trust him either. It wasn't that I thought I trusted Trump, but I was like, well, at least he got some stuff done the first time he was in office. Even though I didn't like his character, he did, from a business standpoint, get stuff done. But the other thing is life. I'm like, I got to vote for life. And he's the closest to voting for life that we can get. And but this time I voted for him as well. And I must say that I think he conducted himself in a much better manner this time campaigning than what he did the previous times. And I'm excited to see who he puts in his cabinet. And because this is my belief. I believe God is doing a work on Donald Trump.
Amen.
And I truly believe that. I'm not going to say he's a man of faith or that and I'm not perfect. So like if I was running for office, you could pick me to death of all the things I've screwed up on. All of us are imperfect. But like, I think when you're in the public eye, you get held to a higher standard. But man, I've heard things come out of his mouth and I've seen things, and I personally think that God is doing a work in his life. And there's so many people. And I'm going to tell you what, when he first selected J.D. Vance, I was like, well, that was stupid. We're going to lose the election. I did not think that was a good choice. I really wanted Ben Carson because Ben Carson, I don't know him personally, but my wife, the company she worked for in North Carolina, their son worked on Ben Carson's campaign. Like Ben Carson still calls him when he had his baby. Ben Carson called him to congratulate him on the birth of his son. Like, and he told him, he's like, dude, everything you see with Ben Carson is exactly the same behind the scenes. Like, he is a stand-up man of God, and that's who I wanted. But J.D. Vance has impressed me. I'm just going to say, I think that guy's a man of God. And so I think God has put him there in a place.
Well, here's the thing. If you find me in Scripture one man that God used that was perfect.
Oh yeah, exactly.
No, I mean honestly, and I've seen the memes on Facebook, and everybody's like, God used wretched men. He did, but I mean the reality is that everybody that God used in the Bible, even David is a man after God's own heart. Homeboy had a lady's husband killed so he could get in bed. Like, none of the guys in the Bible are guys that you would think are men of God, but God uses everybody. And so I don't think either of them are in a Vance or Trump or in a solid place of faith, but I think that God is working in their lives. And like you said, it's the closest to life. And so I'm always going to vote that way. You call me whatever you want to call me, but I'm not trying to control a woman's body. I'm trying to save the life within it. And so that's how I'm going to vote. And so But without getting too more political, before we get into today's guest, which I'm really excited about, just want to say thank you to all the patron supporters. You guys are killing it. Really appreciate all the support over on Patreon. And if you'd like to support us financially that way, you can do so on patreon.com/faithtalkswood. If you're listening to us on Apple, give us a 5-star review if you think we're worth it, and pray for the podcast. And another thing you can do, if you're in the market for sand and stuff, you can go on surfprep.com and find any sand and stuff you want they have and use the code FAITH and get 10% off. And we get a little kickback from that. It helps the podcast out a little bit. And just really appreciate Surf Prep for partnering with the Faith Talks Wood podcast and look forward to that relationship going forward. So, Tom, will you give the man an introduction like he's never had before? Who are we having on the podcast today?
Look, man. So when I was a young man, I always wanted to grow a beard. My dad, he tried to grow a beard. I tried to grow a beard, but I always get these blank spots. But if I could grow a beard, man, I want to look like a wild man from the woods, like Mark Morgan, and grow. But no, on a serious note, we have some of our listeners that listen to the podcast that I have gotten to be friends with, and there's a handful of them that I just like. We text back and forth. We'll call each other, typically on Friday because Mark's off on Fridays, and he'll call, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And just gotten to be real good buddies with Mark. And man, I'm excited about having him on here. But yeah, man, I do wish I could grow a beard like yours, man. So welcome to the podcast. Mark Morgan from Mark Morgan Woodworks, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I just want to say thanks, guys, for having me on your podcast. It's been a long time coming. And I've been a listener for, I'd say, a little over a year now. And it's been, your podcast has really helped me in my walk with Christ. You know what I'm saying? So it's, with Tom, I spoke with Tom a lot, and he helped me basically just start getting back into the Bible, reading. I'm not much of a reader. And, and then, he just encouraged me to do that. And I'm very thankful for the podcast and meeting you guys and making you guys become my friends. So
awesome. And because of that, you started a little live stream thing on Thursdays, man.
Yes, I did. We talk about that for a second. And so basically, I reached out to Tom and I said, I think it'd be a good idea for you to start a Bible study or something like that. And I was looking for Tom to do it because I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I just wanted to be part of it. And, Tom was pretty much kind of just like, won't you do it? Won't you do it? And I was like, so I prayed about it and things. And then, God just said, it's for you. It's, you need to do this. And, so I reached out to another guest that you guys had, was Everett Burge from Wave After Wave. And his testimony, I kind of, run parallel with his testimony too. And a lot of other guest testimonies. That's why I always kind of say something on your IG accounts, you know what I'm saying? And I just say thank you for sharing and stuff like that, because I can relate to a lot of people and a lot of other stuff. So getting back to the Bible study, I just, just reached out to Everett and asked him to be be a host, and he accepted it. Then we just kind of fell flat from there. And then Tom reached out to us and gave us a little nudge and said, let's get started. And that's really what we needed. We needed that nudge from Tom. And here we are. We're doing a Bible study, and we're in John, and it's called Sawdust Sessions, and it's been pretty good. It's been teaching me a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff I didn't know, and I haven't read the Bible from beginning to end, but it's getting me in the Bible, so I'm thankful
Absolutely.
for that. And if it wasn't for your podcast, it probably wouldn't be happening.
Well,
To be honest with you. So
That's
I think
awesome.
it's inspiring to Tom and I that this little thing that we do that's just between two doofuses, people are listening to it and it's inspiring people. Honestly,
Yeah.
Hey,
you know,
wait. Let's pause there. Between one doofus and an old man with no hair.
well, hey, I have hung out with you for a week at Workbench Con.
I know.
Go.
We're both doofus. I'm just messing with you.
Right. I know, but man, that's awesome. I've actually jumped on your Thursday night thing a couple times, and one time I was in the shop, and one time I was coming to edit the podcast, and I got on Instagram. I was like, "Oh, hey guys," and just jumped on. But I love what you guys are doing over there, and love the fact that the word is being taught and just talked about. And so that's really awesome, man. But we were talking a little bit before the podcast, and I'll let you get into it, but you don't live too far from me. You're 2.5, 3 hours away from me over in Xenia, Ohio. But tell everybody about yourself. You know, what do you do for work? Your, family upbringing, all that kind of stuff, and then you roll into your testimony.
Okay. Well, all right. I live in Xenia, Ohio, like you said, and I'm actually a cabinet maker by trade. I've been doing cabinet making, I want to say around 27 years or so. I work for a company that's about 45 minutes from me, so I drive 45 minutes to work every day. They've been in business since the early 90s, and they're a pretty established company I work for. So, and I also have my own little shop here at the house. I built it 2 years ago, but I haven't finished it out. So it's got some electric in it, but other than that, I do a little bit of stuff here and there, but nothing much. And woodworking wise, that's kind of what I do. And I buy and resell antiques and repair furniture and build things around the house and do, stuff around the house and things of that nature. And I got a few major projects in the house that I need to get going on. And, but life had changed for me, which put a hold on some stuff for that. We'll get into that later. So I'm married. I have 2 boys. She has 2 girls. Her daughters live in North Carolina, and I have 5 grandkids on her side. So, that's us. We have a house here in Xenia, and we've been very fortunate to just to be able to go travel and go see our kids and grandkids and things of that nature. And it's been really, really great. And grandkids are so awesome. So, and when they live so far away, you don't get to see them that much. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes to not to be able to see your grandkids. And, but I'm going to roll into my testimony because I want to just kind of jump into that kind of quick. Because it's going to play out some stuff that I've been talking about. My parents, I did grow up in church. So I wasn't, like some of you guys where you grew up in church and some of your guests and stuff. And, but at a young age, we used to go down Kentucky a lot. That's where my mom was from. And I always seen pictures in my grandma's house of Christ and God. And I was always awe about it. You know what I mean? I didn't know who the man was. And, there was always the preacher that was always on the television every Sunday. I can't think of what his name is. I don't think I remember it. But, and I used to go to Sunday school, and they're Pentecostal. So I don't remember anything as a kid with church and stuff. So, and as time went on, I got older. People started passing, and we'd go down there, and you'd go. They'd have a wake. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but they had a wake where you sit up with the dead at night and things of that nature. And they'd also have a church service. And Pentecostal was a little scary to me. You know what I mean? It was frightening. And it was just, it was, it was something else. And I just kind of didn't really get into Pentecostal end of things. And so, so, so basically we just, I just, as I grew up and, we had some hard times in my life where we were poor and I didn't know it. And a lot of times I grew up, a lot of homes that we lived in, apartments and stuff that I slept on the couch or I slept on the floor. And we didn't have much, and that was kind of, looking back on that, I was definitely poor, but, I didn't know it, you know what I mean? So, and, but as time went on, as I got older and stuff and things started changing in my life, as I got, into the teenager age, this will probably be kind of hard to share, but I'm going to share it anyway. I was molested by my aunt, and she was non-blood aunt. So we kind of developed a relationship for a little bit, and which wasn't a relationship at all. And that kind of set me forth in my life of how I viewed women. And as I grew up and got older, I was into the party scene, drugs, alcohol. I mean, I wasn't a weekend warrior. I was an every night warrior. I would drink every night and just go find women. It was a game to me. That kind of set what happened to me at 15 kind of set my lifestyle as in just chasing women and devalued. They had no value to me. I was after one thing and that was it. And I would move on. And that kind of played in my roles in my marriages, which, I didn't have any respect for women. You get what I'm saying? So about 25, I got about 25. I had this biggest party I ever had. I had probably 1,000 people, 6, 7 kegs, 2 live bands. It was my birthday party. And it was just, I would say there's probably a good 800 people there. And I never felt so alone in my life, and that's where I met my first wife, which my first wife was, my first ex-wife was my sister's best friend. So that's kind of how we got together. And she had 3 kids, and we got married, and I tried to raise the kids, and I got depressed and things of that nature in that marriage. And it just kind of went south on both ends, her end and mine. And we just kind of divorced. And that was the end of that. And then I started dating an ex-girlfriend of mine. And after that, and we, and I had a house down near my mom and dad's. I'd rented a house, and we started dating and stuff like that. And, I was still chasing women. Still doing right after my first marriage, I got back into chasing women and doing that kind of stuff. And it just, I just went off the deep end for a little while with that. And then, I started dating her, and she ended up, long story short, she ended up getting pregnant, and I wasn't too happy about it. And to not make myself sound bad, but it's going to. I told her, I said, you need to have an abortion. I said, I didn't want this. I said, this is not what I want. And that didn't happen. But God just kind of somehow, some way, God got into me and said, you know what, this is, you have to take responsibility for this. And so I did. And but I just want to backtrack a little bit. Within that first marriage of mine, I actually adopted her youngest son. So that's where my first child come from, was her youngest. So I adopted him. And just to backtrack back into the second girlfriend, so she was pregnant, and I was paying child support on my first child. And so we decided to move in together, which moving in together was moving in with her parents. And so I ended up moving with her and her parents at her house, her mom and dad's house. And that kind of didn't work out for me. You know what I mean? It was tough living with someone. So basically, we had the kid, we had our child, we had my son, and we, was trying to make a go at it. And as we were living there, her mom started going to church, and then the pastor would come to the house and invite us to go to church. And so we decided to go to this Baptist church in New Vienna, Ohio. And I'd never been to a Baptist church, so I didn't know what it was about. And so I went, because I'm searching. I was always searching for something. And so I went, and we went a few times. And the pastor came up to me and said, if you want to join this church or be part of this church, you have to get baptized and you have to get married. Or basically get married and get baptized. And it wasn't about me accepting Christ. It was kind of like a pressure type thing. I kind of share that with people, and it's like I didn't come to Jesus myself. I was kind of pressured into it. So we went ahead and set up we got married at the church. He married us, and then we got baptized. All of us did. And I didn't really know what I did, to be honest with you. And I didn't know what I was accepting. And I kept going to the pastor, and I was like, dude, I was reading King James, and King James is so hard to read. And I was like, dude, I do not know what this is saying. I do not know it. I don't know. I said, he kept telling me, you pray about it. You just pray about it. God will reveal it to you. Pray about it. I said, I don't even know what praying is. I had no clue, and I'm new to this. And he just said, just keep praying about it. And I just never could get it. I never could get it. So I went to church for a little while, and then it just kind of phased out, just because I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any different. And I couldn't get any kind of help to understand what I was trying to read. And so after that, we kind of moved out of the house, got our own place. And then my second wife, we just kind of fell apart too. Our marriage did. I got really depressed, had lost jobs. I was in and out of different jobs. And so we just kind of split up. And I moved in with my parents and back to sleeping on the couch and stuff like that. So during that split up, we tried to reconcile, but it never did happen. And during my time with living at my parents, I was very depressed, and I was so depressed I contemplated suicide. I just said I don't care anymore. I'm done. People would be better off without me in their lives, and so that kind of came in me and went out pretty fast. So I started seeking help, which was not seeking help through God. I was seeking help through like your local mental places where you can go talk to someone. And I was on medication and stuff. So, and that worked for a little bit. And then I basically just kind of went back to being the same old Mark that was chasing women, things of that nature. It brought me out of that depression stage, but I went back to being old Mark. And then I just, for some reason, I hit rock bottom again. But I wasn't doing any drugs or anything. I just kind of went into another depression state, and I just told God, I said, you got to send somebody to help me. I said, God, I can't do this by myself. I can't. And I prayed and prayed for him to send someone. And I actually got on this site called Plenty of Fish, which is a dating site. So, and I had actually met Heidi, my third wife, and you know, we started dating and stuff, and she was married. I was still married. She was getting divorced. I was not getting divorced yet. And we were, you know, living in sin. And so she'd been going to church. She'd went to church. She grew up in church and things of that nature. So, but she knew that she was, you know, I started living with her, and, you know, she had a daughter that lived at home, and she said, you know, we're going to have to get married, you know, because I can't keep doing this. And I didn't want to. We broke up a few times, and then we got back together, and I knew she was the one that God sent to me. And she really helped me a lot to come out of my shell of all the things that were in my past. And so we ended up getting married, and I got divorced, she got divorced, and we got married. And we, right after our marriage, within a couple of weeks, we were already fighting, and it was already, to me, it was already looking like my past two marriages. And she said, we need to go to counseling. I said, I don't need no counseling. I was stubborn. I said, I didn't need no counseling. And she said, I'm going with you or without you. And it just, something came over me and said, go. And I didn't know what kind of counseling we were going to. And it was actually a Christian counseling. So we went to a church, to a Christian counselor. And really, we learned a lot about ourselves. We both were holding a lot of our past against each other, all the hurts and pains that we had. And we realized that had to stop. And we had to ask for forgiveness, you know, and forgive ourselves for what we had done, you know, or what had happened in our past. A lot of things wasn't our fault. And so we went to counseling, and that really helped out a lot for us to overcome and be able to talk. Because I didn't talk a whole lot in my past two marriages because I didn't share. And I, at one point in time, I finally shared the incident at 15 to her, because I'd never told anybody. But she was the only person I'd ever told. And she's the one that said, you were molested. She goes, that you were molested. And I didn't view it as that. And I went into great detail with her about it, which I don't want to go on here about, but she couldn't handle hearing all of it. So it kind of, it was rough. It was rough for me to share some really dark things in my life to her. And because I didn't want our marriage to be like my past two marriages, and she didn't want her marriage to be like her past marriage. And so we started going to church, and she went to school with the pastor, and she knew who he was. And then we found a church and went to that. And so we went like a couple of times. And within that church, and it was a non-denominational church, it was probably 30, 40 people. and they were just starting out. And so one Sunday I was sitting there at the end, and the pastor was, basically asked, pray for forgiveness and God and accept Jesus Christ your Savior. And I did all that in my heart, and I did it. I really meant what I was saying, because I understood a lot more than what I did back then. And I kid you not, I felt this heat, this wave just come over top of me, like just this heat, fire come over top of me. And it scared me so much, I ran out of that church. And I didn't know what it was. And it scared me so bad. So I ran to my truck, and another guy came out, and he said, "You okay? You want me to pray over you and things like that?" I said, "No, dude, take your hands off me. Don't, just get away from me. I don't know what's happening. Get away from me." Because I was scared. I didn't know what was going on. Excuse me. And so my wife finally comes out. She gets in the truck. She goes, "What's going on?" And we kind of got in an argument about it, because I didn't understand what was happening. She goes, "That's the Holy Spirit that came over you. When you accepted Christ, that was the Holy Spirit." I said, no, that's not. I got mad. We kind of got in a fight about it, and I didn't want to accept it, because it scared me so much, because my mom had talked about the Holy Spirit. You get what I'm saying? And I didn't understand it. And from that point, I was able to accept it, and I was able to understand what just had happened. And we started, joining the church. And I ended up becoming part of the coffee team, and part of the ushering, and part of the cleaning. Excuse me. And so we joined the church, and you had to sign some papers and things like that. You don't be drinking and things of that nature and stuff like that. And I still drank. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to give up drinking. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to do that. And so me and my wife talked about it. And so I said, all right, I'm going to give it up. And it took me a while. It was so hard for me to give up drinking, because it was my social life. It was something I enjoyed. It was something that I was able to speak to others about. I was able to be more open person when I was drinking. And it was hard. It was hard. I cried. That was how bad it was for me. I cried. And she ended up wanting to stop too, and she quit, and things started getting better in our lives. And so as you know, as joining a church, the next thing was tithing. So I wasn't making much money as it was, and I was paying child support. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a new vehicle. I could have me a nice truck, a nice vehicle for that kind of money. I said, I don't want to tithe. I said, we're not tithing. I told her we're not tithing. I said, it's not happening. And she goes, well, it says in the Bible that you can test God in tithing. I know Will probably can pull that scripture out. If you can't, can you pull that scripture out?
Malachi 3:10, my brother.
Yeah, there's Malachi. The funny thing about tithing we just talked about in church this week actually is that it actually says basically give what you have come to peace within your heart, right? And so 10% is kind of the standard, but the reality is if you're in a place of debt and you can't afford that, give what you can is what I always say. But yeah, continue.
Yeah. So, like you said, give what you can. And we gave 10% and a little more. And I said, okay. Well, let me back up for a second. So I basically said, I don't want to do this. I can get a vehicle, that's a payment towards something I've struggled all my life. And here you want me to give away money. and I I started praying to God and praying, and I cried. I was like, do not make me do this. I do not want to do this. And God basically said, you're going to do it. Really, that's what he said. So I said, okay, all right. So it wasn't like within 2 weeks, I got a $5 raise at my job for no reason, out of the blue. Dude, I had done nothing to deserve a $5 raise. And that was very telling and shocking to me that God is real. That I think God knows where your struggles are at, and he's going to meet you in your struggles and show you that he's real. And I think that's different for every person who comes to Christ when they want to, like, not test God, but come into their faith, that he's going to meet you at your struggles. And I'd struggled with money all my life. So, I was head over heels, keep tithing. So, and we kept tithing. Things started growing in the church. We went into a new building. I helped with that, building the new building. I built all the vanities for the new building. There's like 4 or 5 vanities that I built, helped paint, things of that nature to grow the church. And I was, I kind of stepped away from the coffee, and I just stayed into the usher, and I was an usher. And so as the church grew and things of that nature, I was still part of the usher team. And about 2019, they asked me to become head usher. And I said, I don't want to do that either. I said, I didn't want to do that either. I was like, I don't want to be head usher. I don't want to be in the spotlight of that, because I knew what it took to be the usher, or the head usher, because, I watched the other guys do it. And so I prayed for like 2 weeks. Again, I cried. I was like, I don't want to do this, God. Why are you doing this? I've been praying for the past year for my job to, put me in a different management position, put me in this is not what I wanted. This is not what I've been praying about. And I've been praying so long for my job, the company I work for, to give me a management position. And God spoke to me and said, you're not doing that, you're doing this. And I said, okay. And so I accepted the position. It was towards the end of 2019. Excuse me. And so in 2019, November 4th, I was at work, and I got a phone call. My mom had beat lung cancer. She beat it for 4 years. She went through chemo and all that stuff. She beat lung cancer. And she would go in and out of the hospital for pneumonia and stuff like that. So she was at the hospital while I was at work, urgent care, and they were going to send her upstairs to a room. They was going to admit her because she had double pneumonia. So they hadn't done that yet. So I was going to go. I said, well, I'll just go the next day. And so instead of going to the hospital, I just went home, and I just felt I had to go home. And as I was driving home, God was speaking to me. He was telling me that, prepare yourself. And I was like, what's that mean? And I heard it again, prepare yourself. I'm taking your mom home. I'm taking your mom home. And I got home. This is no lie. I'm not lying about nothing. I walked through the door. My wife was standing there. My phone rings. My sister says, and I tell my wife, I said, God spoke to me and said, Mom's going to die. He's taking her home. That second, my phone rings. My sister and my mom went into cardiac arrest. And they said, you need to get down here. So me and my wife drove down there, and that was the longest trip I've ever had in my life. Excuse me. And we got it to the hospital. You ever see these shows where people are walking by and it's like this slow motion, and you can look at their eyes and see something? That's that's what I seen, because I seen the cardiac arrest team not come from her room, but come down the hall, and they were coming around a corner, and I could just see it in their faces that my mom had passed. And I got to the room, and I had a peace. I had a peace and calm over me. I think my wife thought I'd be a wreck. My two brothers, my sister were pretty much a wreck, and I was calm about the whole thing. And let me take a drink for a second. So I get into the room, and she's laying there, and they have everything off of her and pulled out, and I just walk over and kiss her, and then tell her that I'll see her soon. And that was kind of, it was different for me, you know what I mean? And I think being a Christ follower, things like that, you kind of know where someone is. When God speaks to you and tells you that I'm taking her home, I was at peace about it. And the funeral and all that stuff, people looked at me kind of weird because I was at peace about everything. And I just kind of, it was just odd. I can't believe it. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So anyway, fast forward a little bit from that. 2018, that's when COVID came in. It was 2020, and then after COVID was over and we was able to all go back to church, I was in the position of the head usher. I'm sorry, guys, I got a cough. And I was in the position of being the head usher, and the church was going through a lot of stuff. And within that 6-month period after we all got back, our pastor went outside his marriage, which devastated the church. And so that didn't bother me. You guys got to hold a second.
Just so our audience knows that Mark has been sick the last 2 weeks and had this severe cough, and we knew this might happen, but you good, brother. Just keep rolling, man. Keep rolling.
So anyway, I get back into church. Like I said, the pastor, did what he did, and the church kind of fell apart, but we ended up getting new pastor, and the church regrouped and stuff like that. And I just, it was never the same for me for church. So I just got to the point where we were ready to leave the church, and we ended up leaving the church. So within leaving the church, we ended up going to a big old mega church, and people don't know you, or know you or anything like that, and don't really greet you too much there. But so we could just slip in and slip out. And there was a pastor there one day preaching about, he was telling a story because he's a foster parent, and it kind of spoke to my wife, and she was and she just, felt like God was talking to her in the fostering. Excuse me again. And she came to me and said, I really think God's talking to me about wanting to foster. And she brought this up a long time ago, and I kind of shut that down too. And I know I sound horrible at saying that, but I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to do it. And so she goes, let's go through the program of the fostering and see what it's all about and kind of learn about it. So, and I was okay with that. And I said, all right, we'll do that. And it, it was difficult. A lot of stuff you had to hear, a lot of stuff you had to learn. You had to get your house prepped and ready to go for kids. things organized and, um, alarms and all this stuff. You had a lot you had to have. And so we got all that prepped and ready to go. And I wasn't feeling it. And I still wasn't feeling it at the time of when we was going through the classes that I wanted to do this. And we got an argument about it. And I said, just let me have 2 weeks and I'll pray for 2 weeks. And I prayed for 2 weeks. And she goes, have you heard anything? Has God spoke to you yet? And he hadn't. Then I just kind of kept praying and praying, and God really spoke to me. And I said, God, I don't want this. Don't put this on me. I don't want it at all. And I cried. And God just spoke to me and said, this ain't about you. And from that point, it just went off me. I was like, okay, you don't say no more. And so we ended up, going through the classes and stuff like that. And then let's see, 2 years ago, December 10th, we ended up getting 2 little girls. And that was like it was for real now. You know what I mean? It was real. And it was shocking. And it was just shocking to see the state of these kids. And so it was still hard for me. And we started, trying to get adjusted to things because, I was used to my freedom and used to be able to do what I wanted to do. And so about 10 days later on December 20th, I had surgery on my shoulder. I think it was within 2 years of getting the girls. And I didn't share that, but I ended up having shoulder surgery and I was going through rehab and I was driving to on a major highway, which is called 75. I was going to Dayton and I was driving my wife's car. This is 10 days later after we accepted everything and got the girls and stuff. I ended up having a major car wreck and I was in a tiny little Nissan Juke. And I don't remember the accident. All I remember is that I know something was happening and I just said, oh God. And I hit a truck. Then I hit another vehicle. I came from the far right lane, ended up in the middle lane. Excuse me. Ended up in the middle lane and then ended up in the far left lane. But I was T-boned by a semi-truck on the driver's side. So I remember, I felt the impact. And I remember coming to, and the guy was trying to get in to get to me, and the Hispanic guy, I remember that. And then I was blacked out again and came to inside the ambulance. And I said, where's my phone at? So I called my wife. So I called my wife, and my wife said that you'd already called me. And so they rushed me to the hospital and did a CAT scan and everything just to check me out, to see if anything happened in my brain. And it all came back clear. And it all came back clear. And I was pretty much released that day. And I had a little fracture in my back. But other than that, I was okay. And me and my wife talked about it, and we were like, God knew that was coming towards you, and God saved your life because you accepted what to do fostering. You accepted what God wanted you to do, and God spared your life for that. That's what I believe. That's what I think God did, because I think if I would have not done it, I probably would have been dead. That's my truth of that. And but other than that, man, I just that's pretty much my journey of following Christ. I got these two girls. They're still with us, and they've been a blessing in our life. And we've got a new church that we're going to, and we enjoy it. And I haven't joined anything in that just because of so much care that these girls need. And I've just been so blessed just to have Christ in my life and to answer what he asks me to do. And I just encourage anybody else that if God speaks to you, listen to what he says and do what he says. So,
dude,
Man,
that's awesome stuff, man. Cause like, God, you didn't want to go to counseling.
no.
But then you did.
Yeah.
You didn't want to quit drinking, but then you did. You
Yep.
didn't want to tithe, but then you did.
Yep.
You didn't want to
sounds like a
usher,
country song.
but then you did. You didn't want to foster, but then you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, just this repeated pattern of, all right, God, I don't want to do what's uncomfortable, but okay, I'm gonna be obedient. There's a verse in 1 Samuel 15 that says, and I don't know this by heart, but it says, "What is better, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to my voice?" It says, "Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering." And dude, that's just awesome that even though you didn't want to, all that stuff was uncomfortable, you were still obedient. Like and same thing with the Bible study. You didn't want to, but then you did. And
Then Tom said, "I'm not doing it. You're doing it."
Yeah.
And so, man, that's just powerful stuff, man.
That's powerful.
But it's just, I can relate to a lot of people. I mean, I didn't go in depth with a lot of it, but, I think everybody's got some similars to their stories, and I can relate to a lot of people's stories. I got two boys that I don't have a relationship with that, I've tried, but I can't seem to get it to connect, and I've struggled with child support. I understand that end of it. I've had my struggles, so.
Well, I mean, it tells us in God's word, Paul tells us that we're going to have trials and tribulations, and that being a Christian is not going to be easy. Like it's not a cakewalk. Like it's not the prosperity gospel, like a lot of people preach, but man, you've gone through all this stuff, and each time you're like, I don't want to do it, but okay, God, if you're saying do it, I'm going to do it, and you do it, and then look where you're at, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know. It's a testimony, but I also feel it's a testimony of God, of how faithful He is to
Amen.
to us, man. If you just listen to Him.
Amen.
So many distractions. It's hard for us to do that anymore. It seems like there's so many things going on.
That is awesome. Wow. Well, so I know you told us that you're a cabinet maker by trade, but like what got you into the cabinet making trade and like woodworking in general to begin with?
You ready for that one, huh?
Well, this is Faith Talks Wood. So we got the faith. Now we want the wood. Tell us the whole story.
So at 14, I got into working at an auction house. So my dad was buying and reselling antiques too, and he would take them there and sell them. So I ended up working at the auction house to help. If you ever been to an auction, you hold the item up and the people bid on it, you take it to them. That's kind of what I did. And then at the end of the night, we would load the trucks. And I was doing this like on a Wednesday night, going to school the next morning and not getting out of there till like 2 a.m. So within that, I ended up started refinishing furniture. So I would strip pieces of furniture that were painted and then refinish them, and then I would sell them. That was kind of where I took my money to reinvest it to make money. And that's kind of how I got into it. And then as I got older, our school offered wood shop. So I took wood shop and ended up building a drop leaf table, probably a cutting board, but I don't remember too much about it. And then I ended up going into machine trades at the career center. That's what my dad was. He was a machinist. And so I kind of followed his footsteps of work, you know what I mean? And after school, or after I finished school, I ended up, working at a machine shop for about 6 months. Then a buddy of mine called me, said, "Hey man, you interested in doing woodworking?" And I was looking at my hands full of grease and metal shavings. And I was like, sure, I'll be interested in doing that. And so I ended up going to where his shop was, where he was working at. And I ended up getting hired on there. And that's where I learned, woodworking. I was building jewelry boxes, urns, cigar boxes, writing boxes. I was kind of the box guy. I built all the boxes, dovetails, miter joints, all that stuff. The jewelry boxes were a hot item, and urns too. So that's where I learned, and I transitioned out of that into the cabinet department. So the company I worked for was they did a lot of it by hand. So they used a lot of hand planes, hand tools, scrapers, stuff like that. So I was fortunate enough to learn that skill there, is be able to use hand tools instead of using machinery. And so during that time, within my first marriage, I ended up having my own little garage shop. So I had basically contractor table saw and little Delta chop saw, and I had enough experience where I could build pieces here and there. So, and I did that. And, that was my first making, shop. And then I ended up, that marriage ended. I ended up, my dad had some property, and he had a house and a garage, and I ended up taking over the garage and had a little wood shop there. And I was building stuff there, making things and just reselling things. I try to have a yard. So I'd buy antiques, basically, fix them up and resell them. That's kind of was my woodworking skill end of it, because I didn't really build things per se. And that's kind of the stuff I do still now. Me and my wife, we have a business called His and Hers Antiques, where we buy and resell antiques and stuff at a booth. And, but yeah, man. And then I work for a company right now that, we build high-end pieces of furniture, kitchen cabinets, bookcases, anything and everything you can think of. I build, and over 27 years, I've built a lot of stuff. And, I built a lot of stuff by hand. I built a lot of stuff with machinery. And we have a big $300,000 CNC in our shop that cuts out all our parts. So, and I don't have to do any of that kind of work where I have to cut the piece out or cut the dados and things of that nature. That I don't do any of that work. I'm more of a symbol kind of guy now. So, but anytime they have something custom come through, I'm usually the guy that does it. So, and that's kind of in a nutshell. I do interior trim work in the house and things of that nature, but it's just, that's kind of been my journey as a woodworker.
Wow. So you learn the hand tools and the machinery side. And so you're a real woodworker. I don't really use much hand tools. So I can, but I don't much. You had said, you guys do cabinets, like high end stuff. So what is the end nowadays? Is it still the white cabinets painted kind of thing, or is there a new trend coming around?
Well, stains starting to come back. So stains are paints are starting to go out. Stains are starting to come in. I don't know if you guys seen any of my stories where I built a big desk, and that was all like a gray and dark stain. So, that was out of straight maple. Stains are starting to come back. I listened to another podcast. It's a finishing podcast, and they see the trend of stain pieces starting to come back instead of painted. So it's starting to flip. So, but yeah, we do a lot of stain. So.
Well, they say it's a 30-year cycle for fashion and such, and so I wonder if that red oak, that stain, that golden oak stain is kind of coming back around.
Yeah, the curly maple we do. The curly maple stuff is kind of a golden color anyway. So we use a golden stain on that too. So, but
gotcha.
We build a lot of period pieces of furniture. There's a big company that we wholesale to. The company I work for is in Pennsylvania, and that company is called Great Windsor Chair Company.
Okay.
So I don't know if you ever heard of them. I think they're somewhere out of York or near York.
Oh yeah, that's way over the other side of the state.
Yes. So yeah, they buy a lot of our furniture, and we wholesale to them. They sell across the United States. You can look them up online. You'll be amazed at the stuff you see. And we also build chairs. We build Windsor chairs, benches, rockers. I don't do any of that. We have a different department.
You have a chair department.
Yeah, we have a chair department. The CNC is always running, making chair seats and carving all that out because it's a 5-axis CNC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't get to run any of that. It's important for me to be in the shop building, and I'm also actually somewhat of a shop foreman. Yep. So people will come to me and ask questions and stuff like that. So
what's your favorite thing to do? Like, what's your bread and butter if you had to choose from a project? Do you want to build a desk, or you want to build, what's your thing?
I've always liked building corner cupboards.
Really?
Corner cupboards has always been my favorite pieces to build. I just understand them. I just understand corner cupboards, and that's one of my favorite things to build. I like to build corner cupboards that are really intricate, have a lot of trim and crown and things of that nature put on them, and feet and stuff. So, but my favorite wood, I've built so much stuff out of curly maple. Curly maple is still my favorite wood. So,
really?
Yeah. So,
interesting.
What did you say the name of that company was?
Great Windsor Chair Company.
Oh, Great Windsor. Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to look it up.
Yeah, I've done finishing. I love to finish too. I love doing finishing. I think I've shared that with Tom before, that it's because of doing it at an early age of stripping and refinishing furniture. That's where the finishing part comes in, because that's a fun part too. Because you can build the prettiest piece of furniture if you have the crappiest finish on it.
Oh yeah,
it's a piece of crap. So
be putting that Willie's wood finish on there, it'd be popping.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, it will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and that's
they got some nice stuff.
Yeah. He's got a lot of dealers that he has that build for him too. So we're not just the only ones.
Yeah.
But the company I work for, we're a major furniture cabinet company around. There's not a whole lot of wholesale furniture companies out there other than your Amish.
Right. That's right. I live in the Amish country, which Xenia, that area, there's a lot of Amish around you too.
Yeah, it's up
Berlin. North. Berlin. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Berlin. That's where me and my wife travel to. We love going up there. So.
Oh yeah, there's a big restaurant up in Berlin. It's a huge barn looking place, but you go in and it's full course. You sit around big tables, and I remember what that place is called. I went there 15 years ago, but
is it Dirt Dutchman?
It sounds familiar.
That's in Walnut Creek, I think.
That's around that area, right?
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
But
I just remember having some it was some sort of pasta with mashed potatoes on top of the pasta, and some, I don't know, man, it was good.
Yeah. We went up there, and I went to one of our suppliers that supply the bendings and things like that for our chairs. And it's and they're all Amish inside there. They took me through a tour through it and stuff, man. Those people work, bud.
Oh,
there ain't nobody standing around doing nothing. Those people are working, and it's pretty cool to see that setup and how they.
Yeah,
work,
it's a different culture, that's for sure. Hey, I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told on the podcast. I grew up playing basketball. Always played street ball and pickup ball and stuff like that. And the best basketball I've ever played was with Amish. There's a little town. You can look it up, Guys Mills, Pennsylvania. There is a school there. It's a Mennonite Amish school. It goes from K all the way up through college, and it's accredited. It's like a really popular Mennonite. If you want to get a Mennonite degree, it's really popular. It's called Faith Builders. Anyways, they have a Thursday night invite only basketball pickup league, and boy, you never ball until you ball with some Amish guys, man. They're strong as an ox. And if they're going to drive the lane, you don't get in their way because they will knock you over. But then they'll help you up, like because they're honest people.
Yeah.
They'll call their own fouls and stuff.
So, Will, are you like 6 foot tall?
I'm 6'2".
Yeah, you dwarfed me and Tom.
I'm 5'6.5", almost 5'7".
Yeah, me and you're about the same height. So.
Really? Yeah, I thought you were taller. You look taller.
No, I'm not. We're about the same height. I might be 1 inch taller than you, but if I hunch over. So
the sad thing is, I'm the tallest person in my family. My mom is 4'11". Her dad was like 5'1", 5'2". And my dad was like 5'5". Maybe he was about an inch shorter than me. My brother's about an inch or so shorter than me. My daughter is 5'1". My wife's like 5'3". So yeah, at my whopping 5'6.5", 7 inches, I'm the tallest person in our family. It's sad, man. So
I'm taller than my parents too. So
really, my mom is short. My mom is 5'4". Now I've kind of told the story on the podcast early on, but I don't know who my biological father is. So I don't know if he was tall. Not sure where the tallness comes from in the family, but my boy, he's 4.5 years old, and he's as tall as some 6-year-olds already.
Oh, wow.
Man,
yeah. He comes up to my chest already.
Wow.
Yeah, he's tall.
That's crazy.
And he's proportionate too. He doesn't look like, he's fairly proportionate, but and my daughter, I mean, she's fairly tall for being 19, 20 months. She'll be 20 months old. So what my wife is 5'6" maybe. So my wife's whole family's short. My father-in-law, he's not, but 5'7", 5'8" maybe. So yeah, it's interesting.
I'm sure your son has some growing pains going on, right?
Yeah,
in his legs and.
Oh yeah, he got long, slinky little legs.
Yeah, I remember when my oldest son, his father was tall and he's tall too, and I'd have to rub his legs at night because his legs were always hurting him because of him growing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's funny. My son, he doesn't understand the reference. My wife's never seen the movie because she grew up. They didn't watch movies, but working on that. My son, like if I get him changed at night or, we're getting done with a shower and stuff like that, naked or like with underwear, he looks like one of the aliens from Men in Black. They're sitting against the bar, drinking coffee. Hey! He's just a long, slanky thing, man. He's a toothpick.
That's funny.
Yeah. But also, well, Mark, what's going on in the shop, either at home or at work? Like, what are you working on?
Well, I posted earlier that I had some pictures. I did a reel, and I've been working on stuff for the booth. I've been just trying to fix things, get things gathered up for the booth because we got the holidays coming in, so we're getting holiday product in the booth and stuff. So I don't pretty much build any kind of wood products to put in. It's usually just our antiques and stuff that we have and we put in there. And but at the shop where I work at, right now I'm hanging. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 doors on 5 bookcases. I'm doing that tomorrow. Then my boss told me today that I'm going to be building a custom walnut desk, so that's going to be in the future. So you guys will get to see some of that. But in my shop, dude, there's nothing going on other than it needs to get electric. It needs to get heat in it. It needs to get all that stuff.
Is it like a 30 by 40 building or something you built, or?
Oh, it's a 12 by 30. So
12 by 30. Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of took a back seat when we got the girls. So I'm able to get back into it a little bit and start getting some stuff done. So, but yeah, that's about it. That's about all I got going on project wise. There's always projects around the house. When you own a home, it never ends.
Yep.
So
never does. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, I got on a tangent this week. I think I told you last week or something.
You sent me a picture of the clamps.
Yeah. So that's another thing I did, but I had put that French cleat wall up down the one wall of my shop, and then I got on a tangent just making holders, getting stuff up on the wall and getting organized. But so that clamp rack, I have to take my hat off to Rockler. So I bought their rolling clamp rack like over 2 years ago when we first moved here, and I had the shop. There was no electricity, no sheetrock installation, anything, but I was wanting to unpack my tools, and I had ordered that. And because I'm in North Carolina, I had all my clamps on the wall, and every time I needed a bunch of clamps, I'm walking back and forth. So I said, I'm going to make a mobile clamp rack, and they had theirs on like a Black Friday sale, and I got it. Well, the wheels on it literally just fell apart. Not the wheel and bearing and all that, but the polymer or rubber, whatever the coating is on the outside of the wheel, like it just literally fell apart. And I mean, I'd had it 2 years, and so I was going to replace the casters. And so I went on their website because I'm like, man, I've got all these other products from Rockler. I have never had a problem with any of the wheels. I was thinking I put too many clamps on the rack, like there was probably a weight limit. So I went to the website looking for specifications to say holds up to a certain amount of pounds. And so that way, because I was going to buy new casters and then just not, exceed the weight limit. But I didn't find anything like that. So I called Rockler and I told them the situation. I said, I've had this for a while and the wheels have fallen apart, and I'm trying to figure out, did I put too many clamps on it? Did I put too much weight on it? And they told customer service, said, no, it should. I sent them pictures of how many clamps I had on it and all. And they're like, no, it's designed for that. And the lady at customer service said, can you send me a picture of the wheels? Dude, I sent them a picture, and probably 30 minutes, hour later, I got a phone call, said, we don't understand why that happened. That should not have happened. And we're going to send you some brand new wheels. Rockler, and dude, this is a 2-year-old rack. Like the warranty is 6 months. Like they had no reason whatsoever. And so my thinking is maybe I wasn't the only person, maybe at that time period, maybe they had a batch of wheels that, because that happens in manufacturing no matter what. But dude, they sent me a brand new set of casters. And so since I had to take everything off of it in order to replace those, I said, you know what? I'm going to take the big 4-foot clamps. I'm going to put them up on the wall. I'm going to do some reorganization and add some stuff on the sides. And so I kind of took some plywood, built out the sides, made some holders, and got all my little small clamps and everything nice and organized. So I kind of got on an organization tangent this week. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. What about you?
Nope, no woodworking. Although my father-in-law, a couple of years ago, right after I got my laser, he had me make him some like little coins. I think I've talked about before.
Yep.
And he's a tool and die maker, machinist, and those shops they're a bunch of raw old dudes, man. They're joke and pranks on each other all the time. And so he had me make up some coins with some sayings on them, nothing vulgar, just kind of funny sayings they say around the shop, and he'd hand them out, and it was funny. And so I've done that for him a couple of times, and I got a text from him earlier this week, and he's like, "Hey, can you make me coins with this on it?" And he sent me a picture of a little drawing that he did of the coins. And so I've got to batch out some coins for him, but I have to design them in Lightburn. And so I just haven't had the chance to do that, but I do need to get that done. And I need to get some more finished stock in. It's been selling. And so I got to get out there and make a batch of finish and a batch of wax. So got to get moving on that, but no, not too much. I had a cool experience. What's today? Monday. I was off today from work, so my days are all messed up. Saturday, so I'm a board of director of our church camp, and we had a men's retreat this weekend. Now I couldn't be there. I was on call for work in the morning, and so I went down Saturday afternoon and got to hang out with a bunch of guys and shoot shotguns and do all that kind of stuff. And so that's good. It's just been a busy weekend. Had an elders meeting after church Sunday that went long, and then had a birthday party to go to Sunday. Man, it's just like one thing after another. So to find the shop time, and I don't know about you guys here. Mark's over close to me. It's starting to get dark 4:30, 5 o'clock now. And by the time I get home from work, it's dark.
Yep.
Like, well, I drive on Mondays and Fridays. I work late. I work till 5:30, and it's a 45-minute drive home. By the time I get to the car, I get home about 20 after 6, and it's pitch black by then. And at about 20 after 5, when I leave, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so it's just like I get home, we eat dinner, it's dark out, already feeling tired. It's just like, oh man, I just haven't had the energy to get out in the shop and make anything. I don't really have anything woodworking to make though. I got to make those coins for my father-in-law. That's easy. But like, I don't have anything on the docket yet. I do, although we say that we're a little month and a half away from Christmas.
Yes.
I do like to hand make some stuff for my guys at work as a Christmas gift to them. So I've got to figure out what I'm going to do this year.
Me too. I got to get rocking on that stuff because, dude, this is going to be here before you know it. So, well, cool. Well, Mark, man, tell everybody where they can find you at, man.
You can find me in many places. You can find me on Instagram, mmworkhouse. And also on Sawdust Sessions. You can find me there, and I'm on TikTok as M&M Workhouse. And you also can find me on Instagram on His and Hers Bentiques also. So
okay.
That's about it. That's about all the things I have. So.
Yeah, and go ahead and share Sawdust Sessions, the day and time and all that y'all do that.
Yes. We do Bible study every Thursday. 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and then 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we have a Bible study right now. We're in John 8. So I think we're going to try to start reading like John 8, then going to John 9. And we're just going to try to get through the whole thing instead of just doing a little bit here and there. So,
yeah.
And
very cool, man.
Awesome.
Very cool.
I love it. Well, appreciate you coming on and sharing your testimony, being vulnerable. And our testimony is one of the only things that we have that we can directly reflect to God, to other people. And so people can hear our testimony and relate to it and resonate with it and allow a reconnection and, maybe some encouragement. And so really appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing that. And I'll have to jump on a Sawdust Talk here at some point and do a little chatting on John with you guys. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, until next week, I'm Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.